Hey everybody, welcome to my super sweet presentation that I hung too low. Sweet, so my project's about, my research action proposal is about student engagement, culturally responsive pedagogy, and graduation rates, and how all that stuff kind of ties in together. The purpose of this study is to examine the current materials used in my classes and determine their viability in equitable education. There's a substantial amount of research indicating that schools with higher graduation rates also have higher levels of engagement. Engagement equals buy-in. If you get those two things, then you have a vehicle to take you to your desired goal. In this case, second language acquisition. So kind of the driving force is how can we increase student engagement, relatability of the materials presented, and showcase accurate cultural norms. I'll get more into that piece here in just un momentito. The problem. We have inequitable graduation rates for our Black, Indigenous, people of color population when compared to their Caucasian dominant culture counterparts. Schools designed for them, they're doing well. They're at least doing better than our BIPOC population. Materials used are not representative of the diverse population that I have the honor to serve. That's a big problem. If students are not able to see themselves in the material, they're likely to become uninterested, unengaged, and ultimately discouraged. If you didn't see yourself in one story, maybe you could shake it off. Now you get to the second story we read. You still can't shake it. You can't buy in. By the third time it happens, you're probably going to be like, dude, I'm over it. I'm not buying in. Therefore, in my class, since the books we use are written entirely in the second language, if you can't identify with the characters, you're likely not to buy in. And ultimately, I don't know, stop coming to class, stop trying. There's no buy-in. It's just a bad situation. Scene change. The research questions. There's two. Hay dos. Are the current materials used representative of the diverse population in my classroom? I'll give you a second to guess. No, they're not. And the second question. How do my students feel about the materials used in my class? I'll get into that here in just a second in the lit review section. Lit review. Student engagement is critical to retaining students, increase their successes, and as well bring up the graduation rates. The more involved you are, the more buy-in you have, the more likely you are to try, the more likely you'll be predisposed to do well if you like the material, if you can see yourself, and if you have some buy-in. Student engagement in like synopsis. In summary, student engagement is how involved or interested students seem to be in their classes, as well as how connected students are to the material. Kind of hard to gauge it's hard to measure, right? So I'm being open about that. That's in the validity statement, which is not up here, but I'd be glad to send you the link to this super dope presentation, and then you can check all the validity out as well. So the level of student engagement also shows correlations to the validity of the institution's excellence. So in my class, I'm not doing excellent right now. I'm trying to change that. Light just went off. Hey! I'm trying to increase that, but right now, I'll just be honest with you, it doesn't look that great. Culturally responsive pedagogy. What that means is including like how you're teaching, making sure the materials you're using speak to everybody and not just to people just like you. I identify as a Caucasian male. Dude, that can't be all that we show, because guess what? There's more than Caucasian males in the class. Representation is important. If a young reader can't see themselves in the material, then they're likely to become unengaged, uninterested, and dude, they're going to abandon the story. If they abandon the story in my class, we got big problems, because the whole class is focused on just reading these stories to be used for their vehicle to acquisition. I said I was going to talk about how the students feel about the materials in my class when I got to the lit review. Dude, we're in the lit review. Myself, my mentor, people that I teach with, and students. Boom. We're not triangulating, we're quadrangulating. Dude, the students told me that they didn't feel it was accurate. These are Latino, Latinx students that are learning Spanish. English is their first language. They're still Latino. They still participate in all the celebrations. One of the main books that brought this to my attention, the book was fraught with cultural inaccuracies, and the person that I share a room with refused to teach it because it missed the mark so far. And you know what? Honestly, I applaud her for that. I should do that too. It is also worthy of mentioning that these are materials that the district gave to me to teach the students. I brought this up. I brought kind of the same argument before I started this project up to the foreign language director, and the answer was, Mike, you're right, but by the way, my name is Mike Newcomb. The answer was, dude, we know, but these are the materials we have. I feel like we can do better than that. Like, we've had the books for 3 or 4 years now. There's better books out there. I understand funding is an issue. That's why this is so important, so they don't make the wrong purchase in the next round of buying classroom materials. The methods. All these students are high school age, so 9th to 12th grade, 14 to 20. In my class, it only goes up to about 17. But this is way bigger than my class. This goes into the science classroom. Can I see myself conducting these experiments? Are these experiments important to me? In English is another obvious one, because y'all read lots of stories just like we do, because it's a language class. If I can't see myself in the literature that we're reading for the whole semester, my whole semester is a wash. That's not fair, it's not equitable, and frankly, it's unacceptable. First language cannot be Spanish. I have overwhelmingly English as first language speaker demographics. It is worthy of mentioning, I do have Arabic, Nepali, just to name a couple of the other languages that we do see in my class. We're reading the district supplied literature. The district gave this to me. I didn't choose this. Those are the books I have to use. Those are my teaching materials. That's what I'm provided with. That's what I would use. Semester-long unit of study. We'll be conducting a mixed method assessment of qualitative and quantitative. The qualitative will be more open-ended questions, kind of anecdotal information about how it made them feel, how certain scenes in the book, and we're going to have a small focal group that provides a little more in-depth information as a follow-up. There won't be a pre-survey. There'll be the survey that we administer after we're done reading the book. And then I'm going to create a small focal group to try to elicit juicier, thicker responses. We're going to use the Likert scale for the quantitative. And can they see themselves in the material? Are they able to relate? What would you rate your level of engagement at with the book? And then the qualitative, I already talked about, a little more anecdotal. To be honest, that's where I live a little bit more. I wear my heart on my sleeve. Right now it's flower power. What's up? In conclusion, dude, the study should be of interest to all stakeholders in education because it increases efficacy, engagement, and ultimately improves graduation rates. From a strictly monetary standpoint, it can help us purchase the correct materials so we don't make this mistake again. When we invest in culturally responsive pedagogy, it speaks to a diverse student, allows them to engage, integrate, see themselves as the protagonist, see themselves as other characters in the story. It increases engagement, which will make them try harder, which will ultimately lead them to be more successful inside and outside of my classroom. The study will serve as a vehicle to help us trend towards more inclusive pedagogical resource selection that will greatly benefit all students, including those frequently previously excluded. Dude, we need to speak to everybody. It's not just me in the class. It's not just people like me in the class. No one is like me in the class. And no one's like you in the class either, right? We need diverse perspectives. And the last piece, increased student engagement through carefully selected pedagogical materials leads to more investment on the students' end and ultimately more equitable graduation rates. Get the kids stoked, get them to buy into the stories, they'll be more apt to do better, will increase graduation rates, society is better. That's what all this is about, right? Making our community better. So thank you very much for sitting through this. I hope everyone's doing great. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can contact me via email. Clickety, clickety, Mike's going spliggity.